Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Forget once upon a time. It's here now. Dark fiber. Sounds more like an upcoming Hollywood blockbuster. Well, blockbuster it is. More for Cobb, Cherokee, and Muskogee, Georgia. Coming soon to the greater Atlanta metro area. What do you really know about the infrastructure network solutions behind your electric power, natural gas, telecommunications, and cable TV services, your health care provider, the schools your children attend, the business you operate, or the company you work for? Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 6, 2012, and this is a special TAG Premier Member Focus Showcase edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Dark fiber, managed wide area networks, Internet 2 transport, state-of-the-art co-location facilities, and beyond. The Tech Talk goes inside the fiber network to speak with Ralph Garcia, Business Development Manager for Sunesys. In Georgia's operation alone, they have built almost 500 miles of fiber network in Cobb, Cherokee, and Muskogee counties. Ralph has spent over 3 decades in technology sales, marketing, and business development, and is now responsible for the company's revenues in Georgia and Florida. How do fiber companies develop new infrastructure? What is the difference between one operation provider and the other? From the customers they serve, some of the world's finest and local areas most well-known, to their recent plans to invest millions in the Atlanta market. From underneath the ground to aerial infrastructure, the amount of data coming out of an optical fiber is doubling every 9 months. It's the high-speed superhighway that is the infrastructure behind the word wired. The Tech Talk speaks dark fiber and beyond with Sunesys top business development executive for Florida and Georgia, Ralph Garcia. Ralph, welcome to Tech Talk.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You know, it's kind of a funny subject. It's one of those things where we hear so much about it, but I think the general population, our general membership, has a basic understanding of the kind of things that you guys are involved in. But I think this is a great opportunity to maybe kind of give us a little bit of an explanation. You know, we hear so much about I think in your case, with Sunesys, you've got 500 miles of fiber network in 3 different counties in Georgia alone. But let's talk a little bit about dark fiber. I certainly understand it, but maybe go into, for our listening audience, a little bit of what does it mean when you say you're a dark fiber network builder?
Dark fiber, of course, means that it's a fiber optic infrastructure, but we're not providing a service. We're not actually lighting it or providing a service over the fiber. We don't put the equipment onto the fiber that provides you data communications or Internet access or voice over IP or things of that nature.
Okay, and now physically, obviously, it's underground, in the ground. Is it, you know, why is it tethered? How does it work when you put that dark fiber? You've got a. I'm playing stupid to ask the basic questions for our listening audience, but you say you've got basically this. Basically a distribution system. Where does it appear physically, and then how do you go about filling that system up?
Well, actually, that's a very good question because a lot of people don't really understand. Inside the perimeter or inside the Atlanta market, much of the fiber is underground. You actually put it underground in conduits. Now, outside the perimeter, like in Cobb County, Cherokee County, or some of the other places where we have fiber, it's actually aerial or up in the air on the telephone or power poles. As a company, we tend to build, most of our fiber is what we call aerial or up on the poles, where there are some other companies that build fiber which is primarily underground. Now, obviously in that there's a difference in cost or expense. So there's advantages and disadvantages depending upon, what your point of view is.
Well, and I'm assuming that while you do it better and you do it with some unique selling propositions that are distinctively yours, a lot of competition, there's got to be only so much space. Once again, as any competitor, you've got an environment that, say, for example, in the aerial space, how do you get access to that? Is it a bidding process? Do you pay for it? I mean, what is the system that allows, say, for you to be able to get the access to those counties, and does it deny someone else from doing it?
No, it doesn't deny anybody else to a degree. What we have to do is we have to work with the power company provider or the utility provider. We are required to acquire permits to attach fiber to their poles, and they will only allow so many fiber providers or other service providers on the poles.
So it's like a bidding process? The utility says we want this fiber to be spread according to this geographic area, and they put it out for bid, or do you go to them with the idea of doing it because of market opportunity? How does that work?
Well, it's driven by market opportunity. Most of the companies don't just speculative build. In other words, most companies like ours or competitors will not put fiber up unless they already have a customer. And that leads into a variety of different conversations. But uniquely, what we do is we try to work with people who need networks, or like in Cobb County, we built the fiber optic infrastructure for Cobb County schools. So in Cobb County alone, we've got 212 miles of fiber optic infrastructure, primarily up on the poles, as we like to refer to it. And what we did is we went to the utility, whether that's power or electric, and we said, hey, we've got this network. We want to run the fiber down this stretch of road or pole access, that sort of thing. And we have to pay a pre-established permit fee, frequently preset by the Public Service Commission or various other legal entities of that nature.
And are these dedicated? Can you use it for other purposes once the fiber is in place?
Yes. When we put up fiber, we put up what's called a bundle or a number of strands. The counts are like 144 strands or 288 strands, 432 strands. So while you have a customer like Cobb County that we may be utilizing anywhere from 98 to 144 strands to support all the schools, we put up a larger count of fiber so that we can service other customers along those same paths.
Now, maybe drift a little bit into how Sunesys is different. Is it different from other fiber companies? And and if so, in what way?
Yes, we are. The primary difference in Sunesys and most other fiber companies is that we build fiber optic infrastructure for a long-term lease. If you're looking for your own fiber and you're out in the market looking for a fiber company to build it, most fiber companies want it to be a capital sale. Hey, I'll build the fiber, and when I'm done, here's your invoice, write me a check for X millions of dollars. Ours is very different. We'll build the fiber optic infrastructure, and we'll set you up on a lease depending upon the monthly payments you want to pay, anywhere from 5 years to 20 years. And that is very unique and different in the market.
Now, the fee relationship that you talked about, is that driven by the permit fee capacity? So that if you actually put more dark fiber than you have a market for, you're paying a premium in the earlier days until you get that volume built up?
Not really, because what we do is we look at it as an investment, and we're a unique entity in that we are a part of a $4.4 billion a year organization. Our parent company, Quanta, is a public company traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and there's where the capital is generated that allows us to make these unique investments. Originally, before we were acquired by Quanta, we were organically grown, and we couldn't do as much construction as we're doing now. With Quanta's backing and capital investment, we can make large builds and do much more infrastructure construction than we used to be able to in this method.
Now, explain to me, though, the simple-minded here. I'm thinking like the cable television system. Is there a capacity limitation? At some point, the market is served, or is it a case where, obviously the demand for more content and more distribution and higher speeds, and we live that life every single day, so the opportunity for growth has got to be amazing, but yet on the other side, the opportunity in terms of competition has got to be a challenge. Is it a case where once you kind of got a territory, like you were talking about Cobb with the school situation, driving a number of fibers that are still maybe yet to be reach capacity, does that somehow sort of give you a leverage in that market at that time, or does another player come in with its own client and can build out another line beneath yours?
Well, you've actually asked several questions in there, and yes to most all of them. From a fiber optic standpoint, on a pair of fibers, dark like we talk about, you can take equipment and you can almost limitlessly add bandwidth to a pair of fibers. It's only limited by the equipment that the industry has to physically feed it. So right now the industry is dealing with 10 gigabit and 40 gigabit capacity. They are already working in the labs to take that same pair of fibers and allow 100 gigabits of bandwidth down the fiber, okay? So that's from the fiber standpoint. Now, capacity in the number of strands of fiber, when we put up fiber, yes, we can use all the fibers in those strands, but then again, once you've got permits and pole access, we're allowed to go back and do what in the industry is called overlash, or add more fiber to the routes that we've already established. Or in essence, we're adding a second bundle or a third bundle to that infrastructure, so we can add more physical fiber strands.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I mean, again, you asked multiple part questions. I'm trying to remember.
Well, and I apologize. Again, it's a fascinating, it's just one of those things you take for granted. It's like electricity. It's just there. And all of a sudden, and what a great opportunity for our members to get an insight. And I guess now, probably because of our time restraints, because I'm probably getting too granular on some of the questions, but does Sunesys focus on any particular markets or any particular geographic area? You mentioned a couple of counties. Is that a core focus, or are there other opportunities that you see?
Well, the focus originally, going back in the company, was K-12 school systems, which we've done like Cobb and Cherokee and Muskogee.
Gotcha.
Now we're looking to take advantage because a lot more municipalities and or counties and even enterprise organizations are looking at dark fiber because they can get much more bandwidth for a certain amount of cost. So with that, I mean, again, we will work with any number of entities. Am I allowed to use actual customer names? And
absolutely. If you feel comfortable, that really lays down some credibility for us to get a better understanding. Yeah, sure.
There's a healthcare industry here in Atlanta that's well known to many. It's Emory Healthcare.
Sure.
And they have a tremendous dark fiber network. And most of that was not acquired through us, but recently they have allowed us to do some builds in downtown Atlanta. So we are now doing some builds and some custom fiber work for Emory. So what we'll do is we will look for companies or entities that allow us to build fiber optic infrastructure for them. We'll set aside the fiber for their needs or their use, and that'll allow us to add count to our fiber and more network to our infrastructure.
Wow. Is it actually feasible in the future that a client would have sufficient capacity to become a reseller themselves?
It could. Now, we do, since we are a dark fiber provider, we don't look to actually sell services or resell.
You're just doing the infrastructure and then whatever they do with the infrastructure. So something like a healthcare network for now could be leveraging it for telemedicine and for a whole number of reasons through their network, but that eventually they could become somewhat of, use that core competency to stretch out into other possible areas that complement what they're already doing or provide. And I'm going to drift into another subject real quick, and that is how can you not be impacting communities? When you talk about the kind of things that you're doing, my first blush had to do with economic development and inbound investment as it related to the need of the enterprise sector to have some high-speed connectivity. But here's a case where you even bring up a healthcare system. Now we're drifting into not only from an economic standpoint, but actually from a quality of life standpoint, having this capacity is important. Maybe tell us a little bit about Sunesys as it relates to specifically helping a community.
Well, and that's what we're doing now, is we are focusing on counties and municipalities. And when I say counties, I'm talking about the actual county government as it relates to the constituents or the people in the county paying taxes and wanting services and wanting to be able to get more cost-effective, competitively priced internet access, things of that nature. So whereas counties didn't used to do that as much, there's been a few around the country. More and more counties are at least starting to look at that at this time.
Now, I know that just recently, I'm not sure where I saw it, but I saw a release from you guys where you're talking about investing millions in the Atlanta market. Is that the Emory situation, or is there something more involved?
Well, what we did is we had built out several counties like Cobb and Cherokee, but they were in essence islands. They were their own networks in and of themselves. And as you know, to be able to offer services to a lot of people, you have to be able to allow them access to different carriers. So there's a lot of carriers in the market. Originally, it had not built into one of the carrier hotels where a customer could acquire fiber from us and then go out and pick whoever they wanted to buy their services from.
Gotcha.
We have recently purchased a conduit that will allow us a 118-mile expansion of infrastructure from both Cobb County, Fulton County, the edge of Gwinnett County, that sort of thing, back into downtown to Atlanta to 56 Marietta, which is the major meet-me point in Atlanta and the southeast.
Now, translate that into what that could mean to those areas. I mean, I think it's obvious on a 40,000-foot level, but give me...
Yeah, what that means now is I can go to a county or I can go to a city and say, hey, instead of buying your services piecemeal and servicing a lot of different buildings, I can set you up a fiber optic network, carry you back to 56 Marietta,
wow,
and you can have any number of companies bid on the services you need and want at a much more competitive price, which will, in essence, pay for the fiber optic infrastructure to begin with.
Absolutely killer. I mean, that is disruptive that is great. You mentioned Emory. I think we'd be remiss in maybe not bringing up, if you feel comfortable doing it, share with us some of your other customers.
Well, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of the cellular tower companies, that sort of thing. We've been doing Internet 2 services for the Board of Regents and like Hall County schools, even though we didn't do the school system. So customers of that nature are who we're working with and dealing with throughout the metropolitan Atlanta area and looking for more.
Well, one last point. We're running out of time, and I often say this when I get a chance to do the interviews, and that is that the really good ones seem to go so fast, and there's so much you've shared with us. I think any of our listeners have learned a tremendous amount. They probably have other questions, but unfortunately we're quickly running out of time. One last point, and that is you are a premier member of TAG. Maybe tell our listening audience, and certainly some of our TAG members, what that's meant to you and what it means to you now.
Well, I mean, it's a phenomenal source of networking. In fact, I was communicating with my director of marketing today, sharing with him that of all the expenses we're incurring in marketing and advertising here in the Georgia market, I'm actually retracting from some other areas and putting more money and more time and more of my investment into TAG as opposed to other networking and marketing entities.
I think that I'll close it on that because I can't think of a better, Ralph. When you talk about testimony, I think the old line is follow the money or show me the money. So when you make a decision like that, I think it kind of says it all. Well, I think we've learned a tremendous amount. Thank you so much for taking time out of your really busy schedule. Sound like you got a lot on your plate and a lot of great opportunity ahead of you. Best of luck in this year and in the continuing success of what you're doing. And thank you for taking time to be with us today on Tech Talk.
And thank you for having me.